The doom of Babylon. See, the destruction of Babylon described in Isaiah 13 and 14 and Jeremiah 50 and 51 says it'll never be inhabited. The building materials will never be reused. It'll be like Sodom and Gomorrah. In contrast to the destruction of Babylon, there was the fall of Babylon in 539 BC. But some of your Bible helps are wrong. They jump to conclusions that it was destroyed. No, that's not true. It was captured without a battle. If you want proof of that, go to the London Museum and ask to see the cylinder of Cyrus. It's about this large, say a foot long and I don't know, 6 to 8 inches diameter, and has writing on it, but it's translated for you there, where Cyrus brags that he conquered Babylon without a battle. And that was he did that several times. Several of the cities he conquered, he did without any open battle. He did it by very clever gentlemanship. What he did, he had his general sent up his troops, and they got control of the canal system in the general region in Shinar. And at a prearranged time, they blocked the river, diverted it, so the river level fell. And while it fell that night, the troops slipped in under the gates and took over the city. Now, when Cyrus, and by the way, some of the residents didn't know it for 3 days. They just took over. And Belshazzar was having this big party. He makes a big mistake. He goes across the street and gets the implements from Nebuchadnezzar's museum. 70 years earlier, Nebuchadnezzar had taken all the implements of the temple and put them in this museum. He went and got them, used them as things for the party. How do you think that went over with God? So suddenly there's a cloud on the party because they all look up at the wall and there's fingers, some kind of fingers writing on the wall. And they write it in code. And the experts can't decipher it. So the Talmud suggests that it was written vertically and backwards. But in any case, the queen mother, the grandmother, if you will, of Belshazzar is still, she says when your father was alive, there was a guy that could interpret these things. So they call Daniel out of retirement. And they offer him all kinds of good things. He says, you keep your stuff. But then he interprets the handwriting. In fact, we have more expressions from that book in our language. The idol has clay feet. You've heard that? The handwriting on the wall, right? And your number's up. All from that Daniel 5. Anyway, so Daniel, it's many, many tekel upharsin, and your number's up. You've been found weighed and wanting. And the word Perez means divided. This night is your kingdom divided. But they're only consonants, not vowels in those languages, remember. So if you infer, instead of Perez divided, if you put Paras, it's the name for the Persians. So there's some puns involved too, by the way. But anyway, Daniel unravels this. And of course, that night, they take over and they get Belshazzar, they kill him, and they take over. Now, 10 days later, after this big thing, Cyrus himself makes his grand entrance. And as he does, Daniel presents to him, greets him, and presents him the scroll of Isaiah, written 150 years earlier. And there's a letter to Cyrus. It's what we call Isaiah, the end of chapter 44, chapter 45 of Isaiah. God says, I'm writing you and calling you by name so that you'll know that I am the God of the universe. And he outlines his career. And he mentions a number of things there that describe how he took over Babylon. This is an ancient text. Cyrus is so impressed, he frees the Hebrew slaves, gives them financial incentives to go home and rebuild their temple, and even makes a donation to the temple. And so that's a matter of history. Babylon did not get destroyed, it was taken over by the Persians. That's an important distinction because the destruction of Babylon in the Bible has never happened. The fall of Babylon definitely did happen. It became Alexander's capital it became the Greek Empire for 200 years. It atrophied, of course, over the centuries. But here's the point that's important for you and I as observers of the scene, and that is that Babylon is presently being rebuilt. It has been for 20 years. Saddam Hussein has put bricks into place, over 1 billion of them, and they're stamped with all kinds of things. The troops there brought me one back. I have no idea what it says. It could be trivial. It could be very important. I suspect in ancient Babylonian language it says, Yankee, go home. I have no idea. But now there's a whole other issue we'll talk about, and that's Mystery Babylon of Revelation. Because that gets even more complicated, because it clearly has a linkage to the Roman Catholic Church. But it's not that simple to say that the Roman Catholic Church is Mystery Babylon. There's a link of some kind. So there's a group of scholars who really focus on the paganism of Babylon, which is reflected in the current Catholic practices. And one of your best authorities on this is Dave Hunt's book, A Woman Rides the Beast. We have a briefing package on it called The Kingdom of Blood that Dave and I did together. And you're welcome to get that. But it's even better, spend your money and get his book, A Woman Rides the Beast. It's the most well-documented treatise of this issue. Alexander Hislop's book, back in the 1800s, is a classic, but a little argumentative. By far the best text available is Dave Hunt's book. It's well-documented. Check it out. But again, Dave is so fixated on the Vatican thing, he doesn't see relevance particularly to the current-day Babylon. And I was asked at one of the academic reviews here to be, the referee paper, so to speak. And I shocked the group because they knew I believed in literal Babylon and Dave believed in the, what I'll call the Catholic Babylon. And I pointed out that both are true. And we'll talk about that. If you look at the destruction of Babylon in the text, not the fall of Babylon, the destruction of Babylon, and there's 6 chapters you should write down and read at one sitting. Isaiah 13 and 14, Jeremiah 15 and 51, Revelation 17 and 18. Those are 3 pairs. Isaiah 13 and 14, Jeremiah 15 and 51, and Revelation 17 and 18. What I encourage you to do, sometime when you've got maybe 40 minutes, less than an hour, read those 6 chapters at one sitting. So each one is fresh in your mind as you read the next one. And you'll be startled at how they all are talking somehow of the same thing. Many nations are attacking that all 3 of them, not just one nation, this isn't Babylon being conquered by one group, it's all nations are attacking, many of them. Israel is in the land and forgiven at that time. Wow, that's interesting. Both of them make it's like Sodom and Gomorrah, both Isaiah and Jeremiah, I mean. Both of them say it'll never to be inhabited, bricks never be reused. This chart lists all the different, there's 8 different verses that deal with that. It all happens during a time called the Day of the Lord. That's important. That hasn't happened yet. It's talking about a literal, that is a Chaldean Babylon. We're not talking about the city of Rome or New York or some other idiomatic application. We're talking about a literal Babylon in Iraq on the banks of the Euphrates. There are the idioms of the king's fornication and drunk with wine and scarlet, purple, and the golden cup. Both Jeremiah and Revelation both deal with that. You'll see the dovetailing right away when you read those. So this is an aerial photograph taken not many months ago from about 55 miles up. And it shows you Babylon. At the center is a huge synthetic mound, on top of which is one of Saddam Hussein's most luxurious palaces that overlooks ancient Babylon. And you find the processional way is there. This is the famed entrance to the city, coming down from the north into this fabled city, Babylon. This is the overview of all of them. There's Saddam Hussein's palace, and there's the ruins of the original Babel, apparently. If you look at the lower group of buildings, those are the rebuilding of the palaces. That large one there in the middle is Nebuchadnezzar's palace, where the handwriting on the wall was in the wall, where 1,000 people had a party. Across to the right, that is to the east, you see that building on the other side of the processional way. That's Nebuchadnezzar's museum. That's where they got the various things that they used for the party and so forth. So let's go through. I've got a film clip that I think you'd be interested in. On January 17th, the Marines of HMM 165 departed San Diego for Iraq. And 7 months later, they came back. And they brought back some treasures for us. The Department of Defense has granted us written permission to use these film clips that you're going to see. They were taken by helicopter squadrons during their missions in Iraq. And they also brought back for me this interesting stone that we have yet to really evaluate, but it's obviously a treasure from the place that they brought here. So if you can go ahead and run the film clip, there we are. That's his palace on top of the synthetic hill. Very luxurious arrangement. That's Saddam Hussein's palace. That's not the Nebuchadnezzar's and all that stuff. He's going to overlook that. We'll see shortly. As you watch the film, you'll see that it's a gunship. These are Marines that did this for us. And get a chance to see this. Very ironic, the guy that built that palace was living in a hole. But anyway, here is you can begin to see the building, how much of this has been reconstructed from ancient Babylon. And the main point is, this is obviously, in a sense, a literal sense of speaking, inhabited. This raises the whole issue of the relevance of biblical prophecy. There's some more shots of his palace, which is so conspicuous there, but overlooking all these ruins. Here's some more shots of the reconstruction that's going on. Saddam Hussein spent millions of dollars hiring the best archaeologists to certify the foundations before all this was done. And the bricks, many of the original bricks have Nebuchadnezzar's imprint on them. The recent ones all have Saddam Hussein's imprint on them. And as he claims credit for what he's doing. Literal Babylon, a real mystery as to what its future is going to be. The Shiites, which are a very dominant segment of Islam in Iraq. Great, okay, good. Islam is divided into two arms: Sunnis, which are the larger group, and the Shiites, which are smaller but far more intense in some respects. But the Shiites are dominant in Iran, in Yemen, and about 2/3 of Iraq. The Shiites are one of our biggest problems because the religious leadership is obviously going to resist the institution of a democratic government. So we've got those posturings going on that we'll have to just watch and see what happens. But the Shiites are also angling. What they want is they want control of Babylon because they want to establish it as a capital, their capital, in contrast to the Jewish Jerusalem. Now, what happens there is anyone's conjecture, we'll see. But I think it's going to be very relevant for all of us to really understand that as the months go by, Babylon is going to come front center on the world politics. And what we can expect as Bible students, not necessarily next year, it might take 20 or 30 years, I have no idea. But somewhere along the way, I believe Babylon is going to emerge as a major, not necessarily the major, but a major power center on the planet Earth. One of the things that would not surprise me, even though there's no evidence of it today, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if not only Islam takes interest in Babylon, which is predictable, but that the Roman Catholic Church will take a major interest in it. The Roman Catholic Church regards Muslims as part of their package. They regard them as saved. And you find pictures of the Pope kissing the Quran and so forth. So there's a strange rapprochement occurring between the Vatican and Islam anyway. So we're going to watch this with great, great interest because as students of the Bible, we believe it's going to have to rise to major power in order to receive the judgment that God has described. There's a little more background that might be useful here. By the way, this is a glimpse of the stone that they brought back for me. I have no idea what those imprints mean. I've got to solicit some expertise to try to help interpret what that means. But whatever it is, and that's our little trophy as a gift from the Marines that were taking the picture. And people ask me, Chuck, where do you get all these stuff? You must have an incredible network. Well, I used to have, but I'm getting kind of old. That's out of date.